A temperature of 73 degrees with sunny skies in Beaver County. That's news. I'm Curtis Walsh on 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP, 95.7 FM and AM 1460 WMBA, as well as streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
Thank you, Curtis. It is time now for Rappin' with the Reps. We have State Rep Josh Kail joining us in studio.
We'll switch them.
Frank.
We're switching around here. So
I like it.
So the camera's right.
Musical chairs.
Then when Roman decides to join us, then he can jump on the other.
We are streaming live on Facebook, so if you guys want to watch, go to our Facebook page, Beaver County Radio.
What's up, man?
What's going on?
Nothing.
Where's Kozak?
I don't know.
Did you hear anything from him?
Must have drank too much Busch Light Apple last night. I don't know.
We did just get in from Harrisburg again. It's that time of year.
Here he comes.
There he is. I was just trying to cover for you.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
Speak of the devil, here he comes.
Frank said you had too much Busch Light Apple last night. And I said, well, we just did come in from Harrisburg. You might need a couple of Busch Light
apples. You do me a favor and slide that way a little bit so you're on. Is he on the camera now, Scott?
Yep. Looking good.
You two got to sit by each other.
All right.
Not that you don't enough as it is. So.
Painful.
So what's going on? I mean, what's going on in general? We're going to get into some things here.
So we have a budget season that's going on right now, and just a brief overview of that. Really, the big push this cycle is generating new ways to raise revenue. The Democrats in the House and apparently the governor as well think that we can blaze and gamble our way to prosperity by expanding gaming and putting forth a ridiculous plan to legalize marijuana. Not that every plan is, but this one in particular is putting marijuana in the state store and having the state not just control the retail sale of it, but also controlling the seeds that go around and all kinds of different things as it relates to the actual production of it. And it's just, we don't need... the Liquor Control Board can't handle liquor, let alone bringing in another item there. So that's not going to catch wheels. And the expansion of gaming, there's talk about it. Expansion of gaming, meaning those games of skill that are in our VFWs and in our gas stations here locally. They're going to raise taxes on them significantly, which is going to end up hitting our small businesses and others. So that's going to be a problem too. All of this just so that we can, plug and fill the governor's budget, which is a $52 billion proposal. When I first came to the legislature 6.5 years ago, my first budget was $34 billion. Wow. Just to give you a reference of how far we've gone. We're getting to the point of almost doubling. Probably will in 10 years if we keep going down the path we're going. So that's the fight. It's really about, we're bringing in about $49 billion. The governor wants to spend about $52 billion. We have about $7 billion in reserves. Those reserves will be gone the next couple of years if we keep going down this road. So we're trying to fix that structural deficit, as we call it in Harrisburg, but fiscal cliff. But back home, we call it making ends meet, and we just can't seem to do it appropriately in Harrisburg.
Gotcha.
So that's what the fight is right now. That's what's hot in Harrisburg during budget season.
I wanted to ask you guys about this one and get both your opinions on it. So a bill passed this week in the House about minimum wage. $15 an hour for certain counties, $12 an hour for other counties. Then it goes to here, then it goes to there, and it skips around and does all these fun things, and it's just a mess of a bill. So what's your thoughts, both of you guys, about this bill passing? And it's just a mess. I don't see how we're going to be able to figure out what county. And people have asked me, well, so what's Beaver County's minimum wage going to be? Well, I don't know. You got to figure it out through reading.
Yeah, I mean, the bill is a mess, as you said. That nothing can be done simply. I've found out since I've been in Harrisburg.
You think?
It's one of these things where, when usually there's, the idea is like, oh, there's a topic that comes up and we would vote on it. But just like Josh explained with the marijuana bill, like there's all these layers that are brought, and oftentimes that the legislation that we've been presented with this year from the Democratic side has had so many problems with it. They've had to go back in after they introduce it, amend language. There's wrong language in the bill. that they even acknowledge it and they have to amend it and fix it. It's almost like it gets rushed and thrown together, and they just want to get something out there. And they often say on the floor, which, Josh, I don't know if this has been the experience in the past couple years, but I've noticed as I'm observing and listening that it's like, well, it's presented as, well, we got to do something about it, and it's a mess, but we'll figure it out. Like, we'll just throw it together. And it's not appropriate. Like, that's not governing. That's not legislating appropriately. So this bill, like you said, depending on what county you're in on what day, it feels like there's a different minimum wage number. There's an adjustment factor that happens, that it's tied to inflation in certain times in certain locations. So if you're a small business owner that has a business maybe that operates in multiple counties, that's one of the big questions, is maybe you own a lawn care business, right? And you're trying to operate in Beaver and Lawrence County, and you're like, well, wait, my minimum wage here is different than there.
Right.
So how do I pay when the work's done? And the prime sponsor of the bill, when asked about that, couldn't provide an answer as to what to do for the business owner as far as how it would be paid, because the language wasn't as clear. And so minimum wage in general, we can have that discussion, but the bill itself is it's a mess, and it's not how you govern.
So what?
I like when Josh inhales like that, because we know we're in for it.
Well, what's going on with the House Democrats is their legislation's very sloppy. But the way that they're viewing this, in my estimation, because they did the same thing last cycle, and it just didn't seem to make much sense then either. But they're not intending on passing this stuff and it becoming law. What they are looking at doing is two things. One is passing something so that they can go out to the public and say, hey, we tried to raise the minimum wage. And two is passing something to show the Senate that, hey, there is support for this, and this is one of our priorities. And so what's going to happen here in the next week or two, maybe 3, is what's called code bills, which the only time all year, for some reason, during this season, legally, because outside of June, there's a legal prohibition against multiple subjects in one bill.
Okay.
For some reason, during June, and there's a Supreme Court case, and there's some sort of legal justification that is dark magic in Harrisburg, we have these omnibus bills, and they're called code bills. And what happens is there's a budget negotiation where the Democrats in the House will say, well, we want this, we passed it. And the Senate will look at it and be like, well, they did pass it through the House. That's a pretty good indication that that's an actual expression of the will of the body in the House. This especially happens when there's a lot of bipartisan support on a bill, where it adds more pressure on the Senate to include something because it's an expression of what they want. We vote. Our vote is our voice, and the Senate sees the votes. And so they pass, minimum wage with 102 votes, which is not a strong voice. It's all Democrats, and there's not any bipartisan support. And last year there was more. Last cycle there was more Republicans that voted for it. So, but it lets the Senate know that this is the House Democrats' priority. It's not just the leader talking. Okay. Right? Because you can go into negotiations, the leader says yes, 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 then they go back to their caucus and it blows up. And then they don't have a deal. Where now it's on paper that they have a deal, that this is what they want. And so the Senate ought to be passing things, and I haven't really been paying attention to what they're doing. And then come next week or the week after, they'll, allegedly puts all this stuff into a bill that they could live with, and they'll pass a grand bargain of stuff that the Senate wants, stuff that the House wants, and stuff that the governor wants. That's the theory behind it. I don't anticipate any of that happening. I think there's a very small chance that the Senate will ultimately agree to this being the thing that they give the House. Right. My guess is the thing that they're going to give the House is mass transit funding. So I think there's going to be an increase in mass transit funding, which was also just passed this week. That's something that it sounds like coming from the Senate's end that they are willing to move on so long as the Senate gets their priority, which to me is still not completely clear. But, this time of year, it's fluid, we'll call it. Okay. June is very wait, then all of a sudden everything starts moving because things, happen in a certain way. But I don't anticipate, all that to say this, I do not anticipate us having to deal with this convoluted form of minimum
Gotcha.
wage. There's so many problems with it. I would be shocked if the Senate agreed to this type of minimum wage where it's a county by county approach. I think it's ridiculous. And I think that if we're going to increase the minimum wage, you could probably get a lot of bipartisan support on it if it was done in a reasonable way that wasn't going to bankrupt our small businesses.
There's also a bipartisan energy bill, I'm told, is on hold, and that's aimed at boosting electricity use and regulating clean energy. Is it, what can you tell us about that?
We're talking about Shapiro's
Is it the
Press.
lightning plan, the press
Lightning
plan?
press, lightning.
That's I'm going.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Tribune Review has an article on it that ran yesterday, and they used the
go on
word.
it first, or you want me to just take a half hour to blow it up?
Destroy Reggie some more.
So, no, I mean, yes, I put bipartisan in air quotes if we're going to say that.
I was just going to say, like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know with the reporting on that, but ultimately, right, so one of the major reasons Pennsylvania is stuck right now economically is because of the regional greenhouse gas initiative that we were put into by Governor Wolf, and now Shapiro has continued that. It's something that could be gone with the stroke of a pen. Something Governor Shapiro ran on, saying that he would get out of RGGI, never did. RGGI's the short way RGGI for Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Said he'd get out of it, kind of is punting it to the Supreme Court, the courts to deal with it. I personally think politically he's doing that because he knows that if he gets out of it, for his particular base, it's not good. But I think he anticipates the court to get him out of that pickle. That's just my general read on it. But ultimately, the weird part about that, though, is, this legislation that he's presented is basically putting RGGI into law rather than, through the legislature, through the way you're supposed to do it, if you're going to actually do it, not just by the stroke of a pen. So his energy plan, it's going to continue the insanity that we are dealing with here in Pennsylvania with just preventing our energy industry from taking off. I mean, Josh has a lot of knowledge in this area with his experience in the oil and gas industry, and he'll give a lot of good reasons for it. But ultimately, it's people that you talk to that want to build here, that want to come here, whether it's natural gas, energy, manufacturing, whatever it is, they continue to tell us that we are just not a welcoming place for business. And it's the permitting processes, everything that goes along with the regulatory structure that's been put into place through things like RGGI have just told people, go to Ohio, go to West Virginia, go elsewhere. We're not open for business. And it's inevitable with the energy resources we have that we're going to get business, but it's just such an arduous, difficult process. We should not be behind right now like we are. So this legislation that you're talking about around Governor Shapiro's lightning plan, I think a lot of it's virtue signaling. I don't think a lot of it's that serious. But I also think it's, in reality, if it were to actually become law, which I do not believe it will, it would be devastating for our economy and our future, and it's a terrible thing. So,
All right, if you have any questions for either Josh or Roman, you're welcome to call at 724-774-1888 or 843-1888. We got news coming up in about 8 minutes. So one of the questions, I want to jump back a little bit. We were talking about the bills and the way that everything's been going. It seems like a lot of times that, and I seen, Roman, you were actually talking about it with education choice, that they just throw bills on your lap at the last minute and they want to vote on them. Do you think that's the strategy of the Democratic Party at this point in time when it comes to the House? That's how they are doing it, is they just at the last second hit you with it, so you don't really have time to review the bill and see if you want to vote for it or not?
Yeah, I mean, it's and what you'll find in Harrisburg, it's not so much they're concerned about us reviewing the bill and seeing it, although that ought to be a concern.
Right.
What they're concerned about are stakeholders seeing it and giving them time to organize the general public and have rallies and have people reaching out to offices and have them, because there's like, especially in the cyberspace, like there's 65,000 families across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And if they had a week as a runway to prepare, they could, bring a lot of people into the Capitol, and they could let their families know in each district what's going on and have them reach out to their legislator. So it's more about, it's not so much about keeping us in the dark. I mean, we're the minority. If they want to pass something, they're going to pass it with 102 votes. What it's about is keeping the general public in the dark so that the general public can't see what's going on before it's passed. Because after it's passed, it's, the time the protest is kind of over. Then they got to move on to the Senate. So the whole process thing that is, abhorrent isn't about us not having a seat at the table. We lost that right to have a seat at the table when we didn't retake the majority. What's abhorrent about it is the fact that they're trying to keep the public in the dark. And they're not giving a public any type of say on it at all. And that's what's concerning. And that's what they did with this. And frankly, that's what they did with marijuana. That's what they did with minimum wage. It's not about us. It's about the general public. And this is a representative, body. And we're supposed to have an informed public. And I think that's the disappointing part about what they're doing from a process standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, echoing everything Josh said. And two, as a legislator, when you're there elected by the people that, brought you there to Harrisburg, and they're expecting you to vote on things that you're educated on. And you can't get educated on something if it's dropped into your lap and, it's a 30 to 60 page bill or bigger. You need time to figure those things out. And like I said, that's not the way to govern, because it doesn't give the people their voice. And so it's frustrating. I don't know. Politics is frustrating in general. This is part of the process. You learn when you're there. It's a lot of sausage making, and you get to see some of the politics that are being played in these instances, and that's a reality of it. But we got to we still have time to work some of these things out in this month ahead. And like Josh said, a lot of these things are meant to send a signal rather than they don't believe these things are going to become law.
Yeah, and just this is another example of how things worked, how the sausage is made in Harrisburg. This is the State House Democrats telling the Senate what their priorities are. They do not intend on this being the law. That's why when there's issues with these bills, the cyber bill is a great example. I mean, that is a punitive bill meant to be destructive towards those schools. Like, it's not one that's trying to fix problems. It's not one that's trying to be any source of putting things in a positive direction. It's simply a punitive bill, which isn't what's needed. I think everyone across the board on that issue believes that there's reforms that are needed. The schools themselves will tell you that. But not like this. But they don't believe that this is going to be the finished product. They think if something's going to happen, they want to be able to communicate, what their priorities are, and that's part of the process of legislating. Whether we like it or not, that's how it's been since I've been there. Whether we're in the majority or the Democrats are the majority, not bad bill drafting. Our bill drafting was far more thought out, far more reasonable. There's far more transparency. But the idea that you pass initiatives to show the other chamber what your priorities are, that's always been a part of the process.
Do you think we'll have a budget in Thomas?
I think it'll be a week late, but
okay.
I don't think it'll go too far.
All right. Scott, you want to take our break and then do news, and then we'll come back and Scott will lead us off. And if you have any questions, you can call at 724-843-1888 or 724-774-1888. Do we have...
Honey, I found the perfect place for my parents and us.
Where?
St. Barnabas. For us, the Woodlands Carriage Home Community. And for my parents, condominium-style living at the Village. My folks will love the Village. There's an indoor mall with shops, restaurants, and more. And we can relax, knowing they're safe and secure.
That's what I plan to do when we move to St. Barnabas. Relax.
Call 724-444-5568 or visit stbarnabascommunities.com.
Tune in every Saturday morning at 8:30 a.m. for another insightful edition of Living Well, a special segment on Beaver County Radio designed to help you enjoy the best, most fulfilling, and healthiest life possible. Hosted by Dr. Joseph Maroon and Jeff Boast, and presented by St. Barnabas. Living Well, Saturday mornings at 8:30. right here on Beaver County Radio, WBVP Beaver Falls, WMBA Ambridge, along with 99.3 FM and 95.7 FM.
Have you ever found something interesting that makes you go, oh? Then tune in every other Tuesday from 5 to 5:30 p.m. on Beaver County Radio for the Oh Show with Orlana Dawkins Drury. Orlana relates her views about informing, inspiring, and entertaining headlines that makes the world go round in interviews with local influencers that make you go, oh. The episode will be on Beaver County Radio Facebook and YouTube pages, so make sure to join the Oh Show with Orlana Dawkins Drury every other Tuesday from 5 to 5:30 right here on 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP.
Have you ever wanted to work in radio? Well, now is your chance. St. Barnabas Broadcasting is a network of 11 radio stations, and we are looking for account executives to introduce St. Barnabas Broadcasting and digital media to new prospective clients and grow existing ones. Experience in sales is preferred. Interested prospective candidates can apply by sending their resume to fsparks@beavercountyradio.com or by calling 724-444-JOBS.
Looking for an elevated dining experience with a lively bar atmosphere? Then Jackson's Restaurant and Bar in Monaca is your destination. Join Jackson's for a party on the patio, 5 to 8 p.m. June 19, with seasonal cocktails like sangria and raspberry lemonade, live music from the Groove Doctors, and an appearance by the Beaver County Radio Morning Show. Jackson serves modern American cuisine with a fresh flair, perfect for lunch, dinner, and a special Sunday brunch and dinner. Located near the Beaver Valley Mall, adjacent to the Hilton Garden Inn, Jackson's event space is the perfect venue for weddings or anniversaries. Visit jacksonsbeavercounty.com for details.
Put freedom in your future. Freedom United Federal Credit Union in Rochester.
Got kids? Too much to do? No time to cook? Download the McDonald's app today and get dinner delivered straight to your door from DoorDash. McDonald's makes it easy for you and your family. Download the app today and get exclusive deals and rewards. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Patriot Home Care is now hiring caregivers. Are you a caring and compassionate individual looking for a reliable income with benefits? Then call Patriot Home Care today. Benefits include health insurance, life insurance, paid vacation after 1 year, and 1.5 times hourly pay for overtime plus holiday hours. Patriot Home Care employees provide personal care, conversation and companionship, medication reminders, light housekeeping and laundry, meal preparation, and errands. Start your career in home care today and call Patriot Home Care at 724-506-8911 or apply online at patriothomecare.org.
Check out Beaver County's free online source for news, sports scores, and more. BeaverCountyRadio.com.
Curtis Walsh joins us now with news headlines.
Thanks, Scott. Coming up at 10 o'clock, we will have details on the Beaver County Commissioner's work session yesterday. State Police in Beaver have released details about a crash that took place in May in Aliquippa that was the result of a pursuit. Beaver County Radio News correspondent Sandy Giordano has a report on the Ambridge City Council approving the purchase of police body cameras, and a report on a federal judge ruling for the East Palestine train derailment settlement lawyers to be replaced with another law firm to disperse the settlement. More on those stories and more coming up at 10 o'clock. We can expect widespread haze today, clearing out by the afternoon. Otherwise, it'll be mostly sunny with a high near 85. Some increasing clouds tonight going down to a low of 63. Isolated rain showers tomorrow with a chance of a storm, mostly cloudy with a high near 81. And Saturday, some rain showers likely, possibly a thunderstorm with a high near 78. On this Thursday, June the 12th, at 32 minutes past 9, we've got a temperature of 74 degrees with sunny skies in Beaver County. That's news. I'm Curtis Walsh on 99.3 and 1230 WBVP, 95.7 and 1460 WMBA, as well as streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
Thank you, Curtis. We're going to hop out to the phone lines now. We have a caller. Hello, welcome to Beaver County Radio. You're on with State Representatives Kail and Kozak.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
We got you.
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name is Georgie Porgy. I have a question to ask you, gentlemen. This has been bugging me for years. I have one classic. Well, actually, it's two antique vehicles, but one holds an antique license plate on it, and the other holds a classic car plate on it. Now, I can't understand why I have to have that car with the classic car plate safety inspected, where the antique doesn't have to have neither safety inspection or a emissions, okay? Now, my question is, my classic and my antique car are both treated the same. They're fair weather cars. We take them to and from car shows and car cruises. Why am I compelled to have a safety inspection put on my classic car that's over 25 years old right now? And in order to me to get, I got to spend another $100-some to buy an antique car plate for my car. It's 98. Now, why can't you guys do something about this and stop this? Because we don't drive these cars every day on the highway, and Frank will contest to that as well. Do you have an answer for us?
Yeah, Josh Kail here. First, I want to ask you, do you live in Beaver County?
I sure do. You was at my bedroom window when you was running for the campaign.
I was just, because my answer is, one, there's all kinds of quirks in Pennsylvania law that don't make any sense, and we've uncovered another one here today on the show, and I'm glad you did call and tell us about this, because if we're not told about problems, then there's other problems that will end up getting addressed. So my staff is listening right now, and I'm going to have them reach out to staff, Monica, Phil, if you're listening, which they are. I'm going to have them reach out to Harrisburg and see what the rules actually are. One, to make sure that whoever is governing your cars are doing it the right way, and then two, if there needs to be a fix because it's unreasonable, which it sounds like it is, then we could start pursuing that. So we will look into this. We will make every effort to make the situation better. I will tell you that, unfortunately, things move at the sound of molasses in Harrisburg, and it's just, things take a while to get moving on a lot of different things. But I'm not surprised. There's all kinds of ridiculous and quirky rules, some of them dating back to the 19th century, that are still in play in Pennsylvania. Obviously, this one's not going back to the 19th century, but
so antiquated. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, and I don't understand why there's a distinction between classic and antique and what the purpose of that is. But we will get to the bottom of it, and we can get back to you, George. Especially if you reach out to our office and give us your information. I'm not expecting you to give that over the radio, but if you reach out to our office at 724-728-7655 and just give us your information, we'll look into it and we can have some dialogue, and we'll go from there.
Give me the number again, 724-728.
7655.
Yeah, I think I have that number listed because I called your office a few times already on different issues with the state admissions program too.
How did they do? Did they do all right, or what? We're having a live evaluation of my office. Tell me, George. What do I need to do?
They couldn't give me a solid answer what was going on. They said they're going to talk to you guys to try to get something resolved. But it seems like we got to play politics to get things done around here. I like politics. I like to get things done. And I don't mind voting for somebody that's going to be my true politician. And if you guys aren't going to do something about it, you can't get my vote no more.
Well, and I appreciate that. We have to be responsive to all of our constituents. And but regardless of where you're going to vote, or regardless of how an individual votes, if they come in to our office, we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing by them. And that's what I charge my office to do, and hopefully that they are doing.
Okay, thank you for calling.
Yeah, the stuff around emissions is just...
There's emissions, there's inspections, there's cars. It is.
And you learn every time about another issue. You're like, how is this also part of the emissions problem? It's amazing, this antiquated.
I think it's amazing that, my car's newer.
Yeah.
But still, it's a car that only gets driven in the summer, sits in a garage all winter, but yet I still got to get an emissions test on it. And I only put like 200 miles on it a year.
It's a racket.
Well,
it's a racket.
It's a revenue-raising racket.
I think safety inspections are important. I think that makes sense. But this other stuff, it's just revenue.
Butler County doesn't have
people.
Yeah, Butler County doesn't have emissions.
County doesn't.
Right, but we do.
Yep.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
So, Scott?
Yeah, we had a story last week about House Bill 463 banning speculative ticketing.
Oh, yeah.
And as someone who is very interested in buying tickets, and what does this mean, and what does it now prohibit?
Didn't this all I think this stemmed from the Taylor Swift concert stuff. So, people were selling tickets that they didn't actually have yet. Mm-hmm. So speculative pricing, speculative whether or not they even had it. So people were spending thousands of dollars on Taylor Swift tickets that didn't actually exist yet. Okay. Right? Because they weren't coming. This was a big deal. I think it was a national problem as well. So a lot of states turned to this trying to figure out how do we deal with this problem if it arises again. And some of these things bleed over into some other areas when you're the resale tickets. We've had a couple bills come up, consumer protection bills come up about capping the percentages of how much you can actually resell a ticket for versus, whether or not you can speculatively price tickets out before they're even put on sale. Because a lot of people figured, I think there was actors out there that were using these secondary websites like SeatGeek to grab or StubHub to basically say, like, here's, we're going to sell this ticket to you for this much because they think they're going to get this many tickets. Mm-hmm. And then people wouldn't get the ticket, and then there'd be this delayed process with the refunding. I think there was just some areas that people are looking to try to fix with it. So there's a couple different bills based around that whole idea, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to good old scalping,
Yeah, guys on the street, and we've turned it like Wall Street does this with speculative, with commodities, and that has caused all kinds of problems in the past in different ways. But when you're buying a ticket, really, so you have to have it to sell it. That's the rule.
Well, I didn't know the other.
Seems to make sense, right?
Scott and I were talking the other day. He used to go down Pittsburgh, and I had my guy's name was Crazy Legs, but he was a guy in a wheelchair that didn't have any legs.
Yeah.
And they called him Crazy Legs, and that's where I went when I wanted tickets to go to a Bucco game or a Steeler game. You just go see him, and he'd take care of you.
And the cops would circle, and then they'd scurry away when the cops
Right. They always sat by the merchandise, the merchandise tents, and then off you'd go running. So I don't know. So. But anyway, so all right, Roman. So you had tell us a little bit about a bill you have that passed committee, the Nicholas bill.
Yeah, Nicholas's laws. Thanks for asking about that.
Sure.
So House Bill 808 passed the Judiciary Committee unanimously this past week, and really grateful for that. It stems from a family member of Nicholas Marovich reaching out to me. Nicholas was a resident at McGuire Memorial Home, if you recall. Trying to think now how many years ago. 2017 was everything was going on. So Nicholas was one of two residents that passed away due to abuse by I don't want to use the word caretakers because they weren't caretakers, but the people that were there supposed to be helping these individuals that were living there. It was a national news story as well, and it was a major deal. And this bill, Nicholas's law, simply seeks to remove the statute of limitations for significant crimes committed against individuals who are care dependent, people who need others to help care for them so that they can function and live. And the stories that came out of what happened from these two individuals who are now thankfully in federal prison. So one of the individuals that was committing these abuse acts against these people at the home was being investigated for an unrelated rape case, and they discovered on his phone videos and pictures of basically torturing residents.
Wow.
We're talking about nonverbal residents, people in wheelchairs. It's heartbreaking. It's vile. These individuals that did this. But the state couldn't try them because the statute of limitations had run out.
Wow.
On these. And so, I understand, and I've said this to my colleagues there in Harrisburg, like I understand philosophically why we need the statute of limitations for a lot of criminal law. Because as years go on, there's good reasons for it. Foggy memory, evidence gets lost, things like that, right? So, but when it comes to individuals who literally can't speak for themselves, who were not able to ever communicate that they were being abused. And being tortured in their sleep, jumped on, dumped water on their heads. Two of the individuals that died died from aspiration, from the waters being dumped on their heads because they have, that's breathing support.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I talk about it, it makes me, very emotionally. It makes me sick. And so these people need to be able to be defended in some way possible. If I can play a small part in having individuals get prosecuted who do that and not get away with it because a couple of years went by, I want to be part of that. And my colleagues seem to give Democrats and Republicans, unanimous passing of that in the Judiciary Committee. Whether, now it's moving hopefully to the floor at some point. There's a process. It takes time. But we're trying to this to me is common sense, but it's also protection of the most vulnerable individuals in our society, and we need to make sure it happens.
As growing up at the age of 14, that's actually where I started working at, was McGuire Home, cutting grass for the nuns. And I saw a lot of those type of activities go on, and you just, at that point, you just kind of kept your mouth shut, because if you didn't, things would happen if you didn't, put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, at 14, that's such a heartfelt place to go to.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, if you want to get a reality check, go visit McGuire Home for a little bit.
Yeah, and just to be clear, too, this isn't a knock on McGuire.
No,
right.
It happens everywhere. Trust me.
Abuse happens everywhere, and it's really sad. And and there's so many people that have been served so amazingly by the people there at McGuire. And it's just, you had two individuals who I can't use the words that I'd like to on the radio.
Monsters.
But monsters, is the way to put it. And I'm glad they're serving time in federal. The feds had to come in and charge them with a hate crime. That was the way to deal with it.
Right.
But individuals who are close to that case were just torn apart. There was nothing that could be done about it.
Should have never seen the light of day, and they unfortunately at one point probably will.
Yeah, and to film these things, and it's just despicable people, man.
It goes on more than you think, believe it or not.
Yeah, and
yeah, it's just no. I'm with you, Scott.
You have another caller.
Okay.
Welcome. You're on Beaver County Radio Morning Show with State Reps Kail and Kozak.
Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, I just wanted to make a comment about that last caller. Cars driven under 5,000 miles are emissions exempt. So although you still have to pay the extortion fee of whatever it is, they are exempt. And as for cars driven a couple hundred miles a year, you got to make sure your brake lines and stuff are good. So everybody got to get their car inspected. If I had $1 for every time I saw a car in the summertime, an antique car broken down alongside the road, I'd have a couple bucks in my pocket. So I'm just saying, maybe you guys want to drive a bad car that's not safe, but I don't want to be on the road with you.
Well, there was actually one, somebody's classic car burnt yesterday on Route 18 by Big Beaver Borough. So I think more of the question is the emissions, not the inspection itself.
Yeah. The emissions sticker. And then do you know, is there a legal distinction between, we're going to find out in our office, but I'm curious, classic and antique? That's the first time a constituent's brought that to my attention, and I'm not sure exactly. I know that, I've seen the plates, but is there a distinction in pricing? Is it something that what's the difference? I know you're the one to call and you're supposed to ask the questions, but I'm asking the caller a question.
I believe antique is anything over 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
then classic is there another standard for classic, or?
I don't know, but I would think that it would be a lesser standard, maybe 20 years. But I don't know. But I'd always thought antique was 25 years or more. And then, the guy doesn't have to buy an antique license plate. He was complaining about that too. And it's just like, you choose to buy an antique plate. You don't have to buy an antique plate. So like I said, I don't like the extortion fee. I think it's a scam. Not only is it a scam for the people who have to pay it, but it's also, first off, when you get your inspection, they won't if your car passes the regular inspection, the safety inspection, if it fails the emissions, they will not put the regular sticker on it. That's an extortion fee. And nothing's going to be done about it, because this has been going on for decades. So, no reason to complain about it, just pay it.
Yeah. I agree. I think the thing that irritates me is paying the extortion fee for the emission sticker, even though the car is exempt. That's what irritates the hell out of me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, and I just looked up.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
So in Pennsylvania, 15 years for a classic, 25 for an antique.
Okay.
So
it's helpful to know.
There you go.
No. So, all right.
You just made Phil and Monica's life easy.
And actually, believe it or not, AI is what brought it up for me.
Yeah, they're probably listening to our conversation.
Oh yeah, we were talking about pulse saws earlier today, and next thing you know, it's showing up on my phone.
Yep.
So, all right, Josh.
AI, jeez.
Yeah,
Maybe we should talk about AI. Like, what's wrong with organic intelligence?
I know, right?
Why do we need an artificial?
Right.
Right.
So
I never liked artificial turf.
Nothing.
Never liked
nothing
it.
about it.
I'd like grass better. Go ahead.
All right. What about your, before we run out of time, how about you got a town hall coming up tomorrow?
Yeah, we got a town hall coming up, Canton Township, down in Washington County. It's down, the west side, outside of the Trinity School District, in the Trinity School District, right outside of downtown there. And starts at 9 o'clock at the municipal building. I don't have the address on me now. I can actually pull it up real fast to give the address here, but
I like how you said Washington.
It slips.
Washington.
My yins are, it's Washington. I'm sorry. My yins are slips
Going
every
on
once
there.
in a while. My dad used to always tell me going up to Mount Washington or go wash your face or red up.
I hear my voice back on commercials. I'm like, I can't believe I talk that way.
Go get the wash rag and clean your face off. Clean that mess off your face, Kail.
Yeah, that's right. Go wash your face. He used to always say that. Go wash your face. Wash. But it's funny. I used to pick on him about it. And now it slips every once in a while. But yeah, down right outside of Washington County. The address is 1265 Westchester, Washington. Westchester Street in Washington is the zip code area. So tomorrow morning, so this is our third. We have series. It's actually our fourth. We have series of town halls. One is a teletown hall. We do them each spring and each fall, and so we pick different locations. Our district is very big. It's not consolidated at all. It goes basically from Lawrence County to Greene County on the western side of both Beaver and Washington counties. So we try and spread them out and go in different locations. And this time we were in Midland and Canton Township, and before that,
There's
Robinson
Yinzer
Township.
again. Midland.
Yeah, guilty. But and then we had a teletown hall throughout the whole district. And then in the fall, we'll have three more, and we'll pick locations that are different than the location. And we'll pick different times, too. I know people are upset sometimes at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then they get upset for us being too late in the evening. And then sometimes we do them at like 7:30 in the morning, and sometimes we do them at lunch. And we've been doing this now for 7 years, every spring, every fall, and we like to shake it up. And one of these, I think the only thing we haven't tried is weekends. I think we're gonna do a Saturday like 10 a.m. type thing. Maybe not this fall, because that's football season and soccer and all kinds of sports. So we'll see. I don't know.
We try and winter thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Roman, you just had one recently too, right?
Yeah, we just had one a couple weeks ago at Brady's Run, which was great. It was a great turnout, so thank you to everyone who came out to that. We talked about an array of issues for a couple of hours. It was awesome. We also had a teletown hall recently for the whole district, which was great too. It's great hearing from constituents. That's what we're here for. We're here to hear you guys, and if there's something that's important to you, we need to know about it, and you can reach out to our offices that way. I'm regularly communicating, whether it's by phone, social media, or with the office, with constituents when they have issues and or they want to talk about something. So yeah, the town hall thing's great. It's a fantastic time to get to have those conversations, and so really appreciate.
So my district office just reached out to me and said they said anyone has any issues out there, make sure you come on in 690 State Street and State Avenue, Vanport. So we should get them on here. We've always talked about getting Monica on the air.
Them all on here.
We should just have a staff day.
We should have a staff day. I like that idea, because
with the staff.
In a lot of ways, they know.
A lot.
I mean, the legislation, the stuff going on in Harrisburg, the budget. That's what we're really focused on. But the constituent services, different particular issues, they handle a lot of that for us, and they do a great job, and they're very knowledgeable. So it may not be a bad idea to have a staff day here.
Anytime, man.
And if you're in northern and eastern Beaver County as well, since we're sharing offices,
right.
I'm in the Chippewa Township Municipal Building.
I'm sure Monica would be happy to do it. How about?
I don't know. I got to talk to my staff about that. I got to see.
Who's your? I'm sorry.
Dorinda, Jess, Terry,
Dorinda's the
Anime.
officer.
Yeah.
Dorinda. Wow, you have a lot of staff.
I've been around for a while, too. All of them.
A couple part-time, so, yeah, that have been great. And, yeah, so definitely come out to Chippewa Township Municipal Building anytime.
How dare you throw us under the bus, Josh? We got another caller?
We do have a caller.
Right.
We only have about 3 minutes left, so hopefully this will work. So, hello, you are on with the state reps.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Good morning. I only got a minute. The size of the legislature needs reduced. I know that's going to cut some jobs, but that's too bad. It costed me money. We're too large, period. State inspection program is just not what it used to be. It needs to be addressed or abolished. And number one, we do not need emissions anymore, and everybody knows that. It costs us another $35 to $40. The vehicles have now, today, computerized. The emissions is controlled by a computer, and we all know how that works. So why don't we do something about reducing the size of the legislature? Do something with the state inspection program. Wide tires, loud exhaust. Hey, speaking of loud exhaust, isn't there a bill being proposed to quiet down these loud mufflers and excessive noisy trucks and vehicles?
Yeah, there's a bill out there. I think it's called the Sleep Act or something. I've been informed of it, but I haven't seen actually, it hasn't been brought up for a vote yet. But as far as the legislature and inspections go, yeah, legislature, Pennsylvania, it's bloated. We're too big. There's no reason for the size that we have. Honestly, there's so much we could talk about with that regards to being full-time versus a part-time legislature and how many representatives you actually need there in Harrisburg and what that looks like cost-wise. So, yeah, the reality is that we're too big, we're too bloated. We're one of the largest legislatures in the entire country. There's a minor benefit, I guess you could say, that because there's so many representatives, we have a smaller district. We get more, have more intimate contact with constituents.
Yeah.
But, that's. And then the emissions thing we've talked about too. Right. That Senator Vogel's done a lot of work on that, and trying to fight that and deal with that.
On it.
No.
And it's some of this stuff comes down to the federal Clean Air Act regulations. So,
all right.
Yeah, so reducing the size of the legislature. Mm-hmm. I mean, I understand it. I understand it probably does need to be reduced. However, when you reduce the size of a legislator, you're getting less representation, because if I have to represent 120,000 people instead of 65,000 people, your voice is watered down amongst those 120,000. In Texas, there's only 85 or something state reps. And in Ohio, there's a lot less too. In New Hampshire, there's 410 state reps. So every little nook and cranny has a state rep. It's like 3,000 per rep. Mm-hmm. So there's a debate to be had. I do agree that this legislature should be reduced, but there's good arguments on both sides of that debate.
All right, guys. See you next month, I guess.
Thank you.
See you next month. We'll bring staff in.
All right. Sounds fun to me.
All right. Talk to you later.
The NASCAR Xfinity Series.